All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. 500 Mile Podcast every week. My name is Justin Kolb alongside Michael Skinner. Michael had a bit of a race in Austin, Texas this weekend, three of them to be exact, and no stage cautions this week. But other than that, got a lot more to talk about, especially some big news breaking today. Why don't you say we get into it?
Yeah, I think the only positive out of this weekend was the Xfinity race and not having stage breaks for the first time in 7 years. Other than that, I think everything else was, yeah, well, we'll get into it for sure. But as far as the Xfinity race, even the truck race, I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll say that was pretty good. It got a little strung out there. There was definitely three trucks that were better than the rest there. Xfinity race was really good. uh, Cup race without stages, I thought added a unique perspective. It brought back a little bit of strategy. I was kind of hoping at the end that the caution didn't come out because there's quite a few things at play there at the end. And then we might as well just jump right into it. Head first, kind of like Ross Chastain into the back of the 48 car and then to the 99 car, and that was like the third overtime. So um, yeah, I don't know your opinion on it, but I kind of am on the same page as at super speedways. If we're gonna go there, we're gonna make ourselves look stupid. We're gonna go there and wreck a bunch of race cars. After we had a good race, then yeah, I think we need to get rid of it. Um, but yeah, I mean, one I think the only positive thing that I heard this week was on DBC. And they made the suggestion maybe when we go to places like the Indy Road Course and in Coda that we move the start finish line for the green white checker to somewhere else. Because that it's just a breeding ground for stupid nonsense. It's not the track's fault. It's not Indy road course's fault either. Other series seem to be able to make themselves look like less of clowns until NASCAR goes there, and then we muck up a good situation. But uh, a lot of ways that we can fix it, and a lot of respect that's not being given. Um, and that situation. What's kind of your point of view on it?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the only recommendation that I heard that I thought had some real traction to it is moving the restart zone back because you can do that. I know at the Indy Road Course and at Coda, you can move that back to the corner before, and you can get a better start out of it because they're not going to be as bunched up. So, I mean, other than single file restarts or just limiting overtimes, that's probably the best opinion I've heard so far. And it makes sense because I mean, if you're going to restart a corner behind, they're going to be a lot more strung out by the time you get to that corner, and there's going to be a lot less time for people to actually shove it in there. So, I mean, if you don't want, single file restarts or, limited overtimes, it's probably the best you're going to get because, I mean, I don't know how many times we have to do this season before something changes because we got the Indy Road Course last year with that. Pretty much every time we go to a super speedway race, that's the sort of finish we get. Um, and I'll be honest with you, I'm just kind of over it at this point. Like, maybe there's some entertainment the first couple times it happens, but when it happens every single time, and especially when you have a situation like you had this week at Coda, when you have literally 5 cautions to try and finish the race, like, I don't know about you, that doesn't make a great finish for me. And people can make the argument, the winner included, that you're screwing fans out of a great finish. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. That wasn't a great finish to begin with. When it takes an hour to finish the race, that's not a great finish. People want to go home. I,
Yeah, gonna go
you
sit
can't.
in. It's just longer. You got to sit in traffic. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
there's no way we can keep doing that. There's no reason we should take an hour to finish the end of that race. And, when you go to a place like Coda, when it takes 3 minutes to get around that track, I don't understand why we kept throwing debris cautions other than the dirt on the track. The dirt on the track made the most sense to me. Like, when I saw that happen, I was getting ready to text you, like, that corner's literally a hazard. Why hasn't the caution come out? And then they threw it. Other than that, there's no reason why, if you have debris on the track, like a tire carcass like you had out there last week or this week, like, why aren't we just sending someone out there to throw it? Yeah, it's a green racetrack, but the cars aren't coming by for another 2 minutes. Like, what's the danger in that? Like, when cars aren't coming by, just send someone out there to get it. Like,
yeah,
there's no
yeah. I
reason we
mean,
got to waste an hour on this shit.
Yeah, I mean, Formula One has corner workers. I mean, three of the best ideas that I've heard this weekend, and honestly, all of them can apply to super speedways as well. Well, technically, there's four. I heard four good ideas. Three of them can apply at the super speedways, and then one of them can be a kind of a racetrack type of decision there. One, maybe we start moving to single file restarts after the first green white checkered. I think that's a good idea. It'll spread the field out. We did it at Bristol, and it changed how we kind of went there and kind of finished that race, right? That's kind of what we need too at these road courses, especially this one, because this doesn't happen at Sonoma. This doesn't happen at Watkins Glen. It didn't happen at Road America. It only happened because we go to two 90-degree corners, and it's here
More
at
than 90 degree
Coda
in this
and
case. I don't
at
know the
Indy. Yeah,
exact degree, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same situation. Yeah.
yeah. So maybe in that situation we go to after the first green white checkered attempt, double file, we'll go to single file. Another one I heard is at a place like Coda, kind of make it how like an F1 restart would be, how it would be at their Coda, right? So basically, F1 will follow their pace car, but they call it safety car. So they'll follow their safety car, and the safety car will pull away and pull into the pits, and then the leader will have the restart, and he can choose anywhere he wants to in like a certain box, right? Which kind of like what NASCAR has, right? But they start that box after that left-hander, where they all crashed last year when Ross ran into AJ and hit Bowman, and then between the last corner, right? That's a pretty decent long straightaway that cars can get straight and the leader can file off. If you do that, let them go through that last left-hander there. They'll be spread out enough so you won't see all the nonsense down into turn one, and you can still have a good type of race and still do it the way that you want to do it. You just have to move that expectation a little bit farther down. It's still going to look the same, but they're not going to be running into each other because they're going to be going full speed. They're going to be more risk. It's not going to be all bunched together. The problem is here is, they've now made the braking zone for that corner 400 feet less than what it is normally because you're only going, 2/3 of the speed.
You've also put everybody on top of each other heading into
Yeah.
that corner.
Yeah. I mean, and at that point, literally you have Bowman, which I understand what Bowman's saying. I only went underneath Suarez to block Ross Chastain, but you both weren't going to make the corner without hitting somebody, regardless if you went down there because Ross went down there or not. You weren't going to make that corner anyway. So your plan, as soon as you chose to block Chastain, you knew as Alex Bowman, okay, I'm not going to make this corner. The only way I'm going to stop is by hitting somebody else. So yeah, we just, it's trying to like avoid those situations. So you have those two, and then I think number three, getting rid of green white checkers at super speedways and road courses altogether. I don't think that they're necessary. First off, the laps under caution are super long. How I don't know how long the caution lap at Coda is, but it's got to be 5 minutes. It's got to be a real long caution lap. I
Well, I
mean,
mean, it took an hour to finish, so it has to be pretty long.
yeah, I mean, if you
God,
go to
enough of
super
them.
speedway, if you go to Daytona or Talladega, the cautions, it takes, it seems like 2 minutes to run a lap that normally takes 45-46 seconds. So it seems long. So easiest way to not wreck race cars and to not make ourselves look like absolute clowns is just go ahead and getting rid of the green white checkers at those certain racetracks, which I think will be beneficial. I mean, I don't, it'll take away the silliness that we've seen. It'll kind of take the random winners away from like the super speedways, because normally you only see those random winners is after a green white checker where they all crash and somebody ends up winning and that they shouldn't. But if you go back, I bet you and look at the last 5 or 6 green white checkers at super speedways, the person that would have won the race at the last caution probably was the deserving winner. Now we know there's not deserving winners in anything, but right, that's just kind of like my opinion on it. It's just, get rid of it. It wrecks race cars. We're making ourselves look stupid. And then I think another thing that really kind of pissed me off this weekend is we have 3 of the best race car drivers in the world in their discipline, with Jenson Button, Kimi Räikkönen, and then Jordan Taylor. I mean, they have Monaco wins. They have Formula One champions. You have a Rolex 24 winner, a Le Mans 24 winner, and Jordan Taylor. You have some guys that are the best at what they do, which is road courses, come over here and basically call us clowns, right? Basically call us, what NASCAR used to be, rednecks. You just run into each other. You don't have any respect for anything. Which is really kind of disappointing because I think if you go and ask those guys, if we finish under yellow, I bet you get those guys out of the car and they have nothing but praise for how good our race car drivers are at what they do. But then we spend an hour clashing and banging into each other, and they get out and they say, well, it was really fun until everybody started acting like idiots. And that's not a good look. And then we're going to bash them for it and say that, oh, that's what NASCAR is. No, that's not what NASCAR is. It's not what NASCAR was. I'm sorry, it just wasn't. You'd have the occasional bump and run, you'd have the occasional spin out, but it's not like it was an every week thing. But we're getting to the point where it's not every week that the only way you can win a race at a super or at a short track and a road course is by wrecking the leader, because you can, and there's no repercussion.
Yeah. And I mean, what I kind of hope happens out of this, and I don't think it will, but just the fact that we're getting a lot more conversations about respect and, the silliness that we have at the end of these races. And obviously, it was on full display this week. And this week was probably the worst example or case that we've seen of this. I kind of hope that some of these drivers kind of figure it out on their own and maybe start turning around. Again, I don't expect that to happen at all, because they're going for the win. Obviously, you got to do what you need to do. But I just kind of hope that, since this is all kind of coming to a head at this point, that we get some sort of grip on respect again in that garage area. I don't expect it to happen, but that's kind of our last hope
It's
at this
not.
point. Because what else?
It's
What
not.
else can we do? There's nothing else we can do because these guys are
Let's
groomed that come up to race this way, and I mean that's what we have now.
listen. You and I both sitting here right now, and I think everybody watching the race on Sunday knows that the only reason the 45 car ended up winning that race is because of the person that is driving the number on your hat.
Yeah.
Right? Had that not been Kyle Busch, that 45 car would have been sent in 7 rows deep. Had that been Ross Chastain, the 45 car probably wouldn't have finished because he would have hit him so hard, he would have probably pushed him into the sand. Right? That's my biggest problem with it, is that we are lucky that the best car won. That's what we should be fortunate about, because we were 2 or 3 spots away from having a complete calamity show and having the best car end up on the back of a stretch, a stretch truck. I mean, so like it's ridiculous. And the fact that even Kyle, even Denny, Kevin, people that have been in the sport for a long time, they go back and talk about they tried to talk to kids and they just don't listen.
Yeah.
Right? But then the older drivers, right, get a chance to go and retaliate towards the people like Ross Chastain and things like that. And then they're the ones who get penalized for it. Even though Ross Chastain gets out and says, "Oh, that's how I race," basically admitting all the things he done, that's just how he races. And then Denny goes and admits it, and it's a penalty. Why? Right? Why? Does it not fit your narrative? I mean, it's that was like the perfect storm of just an absolute shit show of what NASCAR needs to fix on certain type of racetracks and the etiquette that the drivers need to figure out. Because I'm telling you right now, they, other than probably people like a Ross Chastain, cannot be happy with the way that race finished. They cannot feel good about it. They cannot feel good about junk in race cars. They cannot be good about how people are talking about them. Like literally, a national superstars in motorsports got out and said that we were basically jokes. Right? I
I mean,
mean,
you look at the end of that race, and there's can't really argue against it.
yeah, you can't, and we just go and promote people like Ross Chastain that do those types of things, and so then we're just going to have the next generation come up, and it's going to be the same crap, and that's the last thing that we need right now, is that, because it's going to end up hurting somebody, it's going to end up killing somebody, and that's when we're going to have to go back to having all these types of penalties. I personally, as much as I wanted boys have at it back in the day, I even think that they are more strict. There needs, you know, back then there was somebody that, Mike Helton would go in and sit down with these drivers and be like, hey, don't do that on my racetrack, right? Now there's not that person because nobody has any balls, right? So NASCAR, they are chasing this mythical fan base to where they don't have the cojones to just say, hey, this is who we are. This is what we're going to do. We're going to run our sport. We're run by sponsorship. We're run by media contracts. We're run by everything other than just our sport. You think the NFL gives a shit who broadcasts their games? No. As long as they're paying them millions of dollars, the NFL is still going to do whatever the NFL wants. Do you think Bill France, right, all those years ago, would ever have let all this nonsense happen? Absolutely friggin' not. He would have sat every single one of those drivers down and told them, hey, do that again, you're not going to be on my racetrack. So, I mean, why are we letting it now? It's just, it's so frustrating because we ruined something really good, right? We finally got what we wanted, no stage breaks, right? We finally got it. And then we had a good race. We had a fuel mileage situation there at the end. Everybody was intrigued. And then we go and look like absolute fools. And I can't understand, why. Like, we need to have penalties. It's to the point to where we need to have penalties. In short track racing, right, there's more respect because there's penalties. If you intentionally spin somebody out, penalties. If you accidentally spin somebody out, penalties. I don't want it to get there, but to get some of the respect back, I think that's the direction we need to go. I think if you crash somebody, whether it was intent or not, whether it's a 4x from your end or 4x from somebody else's end, iRacing don't give a shit, right? So NASCAR needs to do the same thing. Be like, hey, whether you intentionally did that or not, you got to go to the back for the restart. I think that's the only thing that's fair.
Fair enough. Anything else you want to comment on that? Because I have some news that just came in here.
Go ahead, ruin my night more.
Well, it's not going to ruin your night. It's probably going to make it better. So let's transition over from kind of what we were talking about with penalties. Specifically, our boy Danny Suarez got hit with what was it? I guess a $50,000 fine. No points, mind you. Our boy Denny Hamlin had some comments on that earlier today. Sent out a tweet looks like around 3:30 Pacific time, so 6 o'clock Eastern. Quite simply just saying, hell, I don't even know anymore. And while you were talking, he just sent out another tweet saying, just as a reminder, I went on a podcast, apparently broke 3 rules 24 hours later, 50K and 25 points, where Daniel Suarez hit 2 cars, put an official's life in danger, and you can't even argue that, because if you're not going to car sideways when there's literally an official 5 feet away from him, that you can't have those situations happen, but they'll just slap him with a $50,000 fine.
He was speeding on a cooldown lap when drivers are taking off their belts, unbuckling their helmets to get comfortable after they've been in a race car for 5 hours. He's ever doing that. But beyond that, Ty Gibbs got a penalty that was very similar, but he got points taken away. Right? It just, the only problem I see here, and it's going to go on with the things we talk about later on, is Denny Hamlin would not have gotten that penalty if he raced for Trackhouse or Hendrick Motorsports. That's all I'm going to say. We can lead into the nice little penalty news with that, but it's basically Hendrick Motorsports and Hendrick Motorsports Jr.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't really, we'll go into the big news. Obviously, the points were dropped for Hendrick today. $400,000 are still owed, and I don't know if there's any other penalty that I was missing with that. But yeah, they no longer are deducted points, so they got all that back. I don't really honestly have a full opinion on this because I kind of saw it coming. I kind of agree with what Andy Petrie said on Race Hub earlier today, where it doesn't make a whole bunch of sense that you can just pick and choose what gets taken out of the penalty and what doesn't. I feel like it kind of just needs to be, all in or all out. So I don't really like that point of it. And I don't really like the fact that, you had what, 2 or 3 teams that were hit with that same penalty last year, and all kept the same. Yet Hendrick comes out here, gets the biggest penalty we've ever seen in NASCAR, and gets the points reverted. That part doesn't make a whole bunch of sense to me. Again, I don't really have a strong opinion on that. Michael, I know you do. The one I am going to have a really strong opinion of is Colleague next week. I believe that's next Wednesday. I believe Denny Hamlin's appeal is going to follow that on Thursday next week. If Colleague does not have their penalty reversed as well, like fully, there's going to be some arms and hands getting raised up in the air. Like, what are we doing here? Because I mean, if a team can go out there, have all 8 of their hood louvers taken, and have their points returned,
Admitted.
but
Admitted. They
yeah.
admitted that they modified them. They admitted that they illegally did the thing in the rule book.
But here's my whole thing
All
about
of them.
this is obviously Hendrick, that there's no way they should have gotten away with that. But the fact that Colleague only had one of them taken away and still got hit with the same thing, if they don't have that all reversed next week, or at least have their points given back to them, um, NASCAR is not going to be in a very good place. I'll just say that, because their fan base is going to be up in arms, especially me, because if you're going to modify hood louvers, as people have said, you're going to go all in. You're not just going to do one, because that's probably not really going to do anything competitively. And if they're only taking one to begin with, there's probably nothing going on with that hood louver, other than maybe some adjustments they had to do just to make it fit. But I know that you have
Or
a whole bunch of stuff that you want to say about this, Michael. I'll just let you dive in here.
listen, I'm sure we all remember that documentary that came out um, about the 24 team and what was it, like 95 or whatever, when they won
97, yeah, Daytona.
the 500, whatever that was. Yeah, right. What did Braverham say? Right, you blatantly do multiple things incorrectly, and hope they only catch one, because if they catch one, then they'll focus on that and they'll forget about all the other stuff. Right. So in my opinion, it's like if Hendrick Motorsports, which we know they said it, are willing to modify that piece, what else have they modified that this hasn't been caught? And this goes for any team, not just Hendrick Motorsports. It could be the 8 car, right? What if the 8 car is doing the same thing, just doesn't get caught? Right? And now there's no punishment for it other than money.
Which
That goes
means
to a
nothing to these
charity.
teams. Yeah.
That goes to a charity. That is a tax write-off. So what does it mean, if anything, now? You set a rule. You made a statement at the very beginning of last year when this car came out that this is a black and white rule. If you were caught modifying any part, you will be penalized, and it will be harsh. We have seen that harsh penalty all the way up until it became a Hendrick Motorsports race car. And I agree. If Colleague, which is a different panel of people that will, set the appeal, if they do not get theirs rescinded, shit is going to hit the fan, because everybody already believes, other than Hendrick Motorsports fans, because they're blinded by stupidity, that Hendrick Motorsport is already favoritism as it is. Right? The other teams didn't even get asked to participate in Garage 56. They just went right to Hendrick Motorsports. Right? I find it real funny that we go back even further and say, oh, so Hendrick Motorsports got really, really, really good at road courses when they started having an alliance with Action Express, who runs the IMSA team. Right? But nobody said nothing, right? So you just stack all that on top of each other, and then you drop this massive bombshell of a penalty, and you're like, hey, okay, they're maybe everybody's wrong. And then you go through the appeal process, and it seems like the appeal didn't even last very long, and they got the most severe part of the penalty taken away. I just don't know what we're doing. How can something be black and white for everybody else except for today? Hendrick Motorsports, regardless if they were correct in modifying the hood louver. NASCAR admitted, we know that there is a problem with the hood louver. We know, but it is a rule that you cannot modify it. So not only did Hendrick Motorsports and Colleague, not only did they modify the louver after NASCAR told them, don't do it, we know that there is a problem. Two, they did it after everybody else got massive penalties. And NASCAR said it's black and white. So how can something be black and white penalty when it just gets overturned?
Well, especially the
I
most
don't
severe part. That's the part that really boggles your mind, honestly. Because everything else in
it's
that doesn't really matter, honestly. Those points
listen,
were the biggest deterrent, and you've essentially just thrown that out the window.
yeah, it's not it's like somebody who commits a murder but gets let go on, like a jaywalking charge. Like, yeah, he gets a fine, I go to prison for a day, but it's not the same thing. Like it's just, that's ridiculous. Yeah, okay, I would have been more okay with had they been like, okay, we're not going to take 100 points away, we'll do 50. Right? At least we would have upheld something. But again, NASCAR, even though it wasn't their appeal, their appeal board, NASCAR comes out looking like a bunch of idiots. I honestly, I don't know what else to say, because Joe Gibbs Racing last year, a piece of tape, a piece of scotch tape was used as an aerodynamic thing, 100%. They now got a bigger penalty than Hendrick Motorsports for literally doing the one thing that NASCAR has warned every team not to do. Twice. They warned them twice, don't do it. And they did it anyways, and they got a slap on the wrist. So now we have now opened up a Pandora's box, because we're going to get later in the season, teams are going to get more bold in what they're doing. And we're going to go back and look at this. And if every other team gets penalized and gets points taken away, how does that look going forward? Right? How can we as a sport say, okay, yeah, we're legit when there's one team that doesn't get penalized and everybody else does? I don't know. I know we really won't have a true answer and kind of finishing to this until next week, but it's two things happened today that I'm just not okay with. The penalty being the harshest part of the penalty, which is supposed to be black and white, getting rescinded. And then two, somebody did something similar last year and got penalties and points taken away, when they started playing bumper cars on pit road. I it's ridiculous, and I'm telling you right now, had this been Joe Gibbs Racing, had this been Stuart Haas Racing, the penalty would have been the penalty would have been set. I'm sorry. I'm not going to go against it otherwise. And it's a fact that most of those other teams were like, "Hey, yeah, we did this black and white thing. We're just not even going to appeal it." But Hendrick goes in there, admits that they were wrong, and still somehow wins. I don't understand. I don't know. It's like O.J. Simpson. Like, everybody here believes that he did it, but somehow gets away with it. Like, we'll never know what happened. You know what I'm saying? We'll never know what happened in that appeals process. But it does look like somebody messed up.
Yeah, it's pretty much what it comes down to. And I told you before we started recording here that I kind of feel like this appeal might change some stuff moving forward about how appeals are done, just based off NASCAR's response. And I mean, kind of the way that turned out, I feel like something may come of that, but we'll have to see in the coming weeks and the coming months with that. I guess do we have well, I guess the last thing we can talk about regarding Coda at this point is the fact that we had no stage breaks this weekend. It was felt a little odd, but at the same time, it was refreshing and nice to actually see a race play out like it actually should, and it was enjoyable for both Saturday races, honestly.
Yeah, and it was nice, man. It felt, I don't know, like, there was times where I'm like, I wish there was a stage break to help my driver out, right? That's where you kind of want that caution, is if your driver's not having a good day. it's kind of like two extra pit stops that will possibly be needed, right, to maybe fix up on the car. But man, it was so nice just to watch a natural race. It felt a lot faster. I agree with DBC when they said that. I don't know how long the race took until the last ridiculous hour, but it felt like all the races this week were super quick,
Yeah, except
super
for Sunday, but
enjoyable, super quick, you know. And maybe that's a problem. Maybe that's why everybody wants shorter races, is because you have a place like the Coke 600 where you have four freaking stage breaks that take 20-30 minutes. You know what I'm saying? That takes 20
yep.
30 minutes out of the race. You add that at the end. No wonder the last couple Coke 600s have been the longest. We fucking stopped 4 times more than needed. One thing that it proved over the whole weekend is one thing I was worried about is I thought that maybe, hey, we're going to have a lot less cautions, right? You and I even talked about it on the podcast right here. Maybe the fans are going to get what they wished for and hated it. I 100%, I admit I was wrong. We had natural cautions, which are great cautions. I think there was like one or two that I was like, that's kind of iffy. But I can't say that I don't disagree with it. Even though I'd like to have a track worker run out there and grab that tire, was it an actual proof that you could show me the tire on the racetrack in the line? Yes. I will call that okay. That good caution throughout. The one bullshit caution was letting Ross Chastain his dumbass sit there for 15 minutes
Yeah,
and then
that's
letting him drive off. I mean, but again, when you race for Hendrick Motorsports Junior, um, that's kind of what happens.
that's
So
man, I feel like that's something else that we need to be looking at and we need to be penalizing too, because that's not obviously the
what
first time, but
my
like,
favorite part of the Dale Jr. download, which I didn't even, maybe it was DBC. I didn't even think about it. NASCAR has the telemetry. So you're telling me that Ross Chastain that whole time for 15 minutes was sitting there trying to start the car and then all of a sudden it started? Bullshit.
yeah,
NASCAR knows and they're unwilling to do anything about it because they wanted that caution. Denny Hamlin in 2008 stopped on the racetrack at Richmond for a caution and got penalized like 4 laps. Ah,
as soon as I
listen,
saw him
listen.
there, I knew it was going to happen. And once I
When you're
saw
the
him rolling again, I was like, yep, that's
when
it.
you're the when you're the two most popular Chevy teams in NASCAR, you can do anything you want. That's what I've learned over the past 48 hours or so. Ugh. All right, so I went back into a ramble there. Back to reverse, so we can go on to the next
That's
subject.
that's right. That's right. Well, I mean, the next subject
Uh,
is this upcoming weekend in Richmond, so and Texas for part of Saturday and
one
Sunday, I
one
guess.
one one thing I will say is I think there's like places that I think that maybe throughout the year we should give it a try. I think the Coke 600, good race to not have stage breaks. Really good race. Let the racetrack widen out. That's what we really need. Let the racetrack widen out. I think we'll have a good race. Another place is Darlington. Man, let the new tires come. Let the come and goers go without natural. I'm telling you right now that all of the races would be better without these stage breaks, right? There's some racetracks that might need stage breaks, right? But I would rather NASCAR just throw some bullshit caution. Can we go back to NASCAR just throwing some bullshit water bottle caution? Like seriously, like they do it at the end of the championship race every year. What does it matter? Just go back to throwing some bullshit caution for us. But every once in a while, man, let us have a good race. Look how good the last stage of Auto Club was. I know our guy won, but how good was the racing for that whole last stage that didn't have a caution?
Nobody was sitting down. That's how good it was.
Exactly. It was great. It was such good racing because the one thing all these drivers complain about is they can't pass because the tires are so good. Well, maybe the tires are so good is because we're fucking stopping every 25 laps.
Yeah.
Ugh. Oh, one thing I am interested about is just kind of go off topic here. So IndyCar in Milwaukee, I think are going to try the softer tires. Do you remember when NASCAR tried that at the All-Star race?
Yeah, the greens. Yep.
I'm curious to see if maybe that's something for the future. Maybe something for like North Wilkesboro. Maybe a softer tire. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Good. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know if it'll happen this year, but moving forward, I don't. Anything's on the table at this point. So
That was kind of out of left field, but I just thought about when I was talking about racetracks.
All right. Well, let's get into this week. I suppose we can start out with the trucks at Texas for, we're going there for whatever reason. Got to keep that racetrack alive, I guess. So, Michael, we'll let you pick this time first. Who you going with?
I'm a, I'm gonna go with Scott Dixon.
Sorry for trucks.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, that's right.
sorry.
They're in Texas for some god awful reason.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I know.
saying.
I'm just being a
Hey,
pain in the ass because it's just stupid. So, what's a
gotta
purse
make
for this
gotta make
trip?
some sort of event out of that godforsaken
What's
track.
what's the purse for this truck race? $5.
$700,000 I saw from old Bobby P this morning.
Wow. Whew. That's steaming. How many trucks are going to be there? 36. What's 700,000 divided by 36 if you just split it in half, let alone winners and losers?
It's a lot of math that I don't feel like doing right now. I will tell you that Chad Chastain is driving his brother's truck this
So
weekend, however.
so that would be only $19,000.
Wow. To drive
If you
for most of those teams halfway across the country.
yeah,
This is not a
for
flawed system at all, mind you.
yeah, well, we've seen flawed systems for the past couple days. So, um back into my pick. Texas is fucking awful. It's
Yeah.
such a bad racetrack. I can't believe we got to go back there. How come they couldn't just demolish that and blow it up?
I mean, other than the
I'd
trucks, just
rather
be glad that we only have to go there 1 year or one time a year.
I'd rather have that be a super speedway. I'm serious. It's so
Honestly, yeah,
bad.
that should have been what Atlanta is, for being honest.
Yeah, but then they would have fucked up Atlanta.
That's true.
They would have messed up either one. At
Although
least
we probably
at
won't
least
get the full
Atlanta's
thing back,
wearing.
but yeah, I was gonna say we're starting to get Atlanta back a little bit. It's not, it's gonna take a little bit, but we're starting to slowly get it back,
Hmm. Man, this is tough. I
right?
kind of expected there to be a couple of like front runners and like the trucks besides like Zane Smith this year, but there's really been like you've had different levels. So I'm not gonna go Zane just because I think that's like the obvious one, and I think that makes it less fun. Um, so what I think he was really fast when we went to Las Vegas before he crashed, and he does have an alliance with KBM. I'm gonna go with Nick Sanchez. I mean, everywhere we've gone, he's been pretty quick. Like I said, was super fast at Vegas, and I think he will get his first career truck win.
Good pick, good pick. An underdog, if you will. I'm gonna go with Corey Heim in that 11 truck. I think he's gonna take the victory lane again. Also, I saw the crew chief for the 43 truck, and I saw that last name and the first name real quick, and I thought that said Tanner for a second, and I about lost my. Well, I got really confused there for a second. That's all I'll say. That's an inside joke. We'll move on to actually Richmond for Xfinity. Michael, who you going with?
Um, who's really good in the rain?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. This is another one. I mean, the uh the JGR cars were really really good there last year. They were terrible at Coda for their standards, which was like super surprising. I expected more out of Ty Gibbs. Uh,
Yeah.
hmm. Man, and this guy he's getting closer. He's getting closer every week. If he could just fix his bad luck and then if he could just stop overdriving it, I'm gonna go with the 2 car of Sheldon Creed.
That's a good pick because I mean I think he's starting to finally figure it out. So also
Man,
I just
I left you all of Joe Gibbs Racing on the board there.
yeah, but you know what? I'm not gonna go with Joe Gibbs Racing. You know who I'm gonna go with? This is a very much an underdog pick that's probably gonna catch you out of left field. That 31 of Parker Retzloff, because I'm pretty sure the last time we were here,
He was
uh,
pretty quick.
I think he was in the 45, one of the Alpha Prime cars, I think. But I do remember he had a very good showing. He's still one of my underdog picks for this year, not to win the championship, but just to kind of to make a name
Oh
for
no,
himself.
he was in the second seed car.
That's right. That's what. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
You're
he
right.
was in. He was in. I do want to point out that that Chris Hacker is in the 38 car this week instead of Ryan Sieg's brother. Kyle Sieg will be in the 28.
I'm gonna once again point out the crew chief of that car. It's
Steve Addington.
yep. There was another name that I think I saw here that kind of threw me for a loop.
Ben Bayshore. Jason Ratcliffe.
Jason Radcliffe, that's what it was. Going with the 19 of Joe Graff Jr. That's gonna be a highlight of Jason's career, I know. So
Or Jason.
poor Jason.
Uh,
All right, all right. Big race Sunday. Who are we going with?
man, I have been awful at picks. Awful. I've had a terrible, terrible year. I think you've won a couple times to my absolute disasters.
Pretty sure I won Auto Club. I don't know if I won anything
You
else. At
picked
least for Cup,
you picked Zane Smith.
I did. Well, I mean, that's kind of the easy one when
Yeah,
fucking
that's true.
front row wins literally all the races, all the truck races at Coda.
At Coda.
Like all of them.
Man. Hmm. Oh, Actually, I want to hear you go first because I think there's somebody that you might pick.
Should tell me. I don't know. The one guy, and I really hate. I don't hate to do this, but I kind of don't want to do it. But my gut is telling me to do it. I'll go with Josh Berry.
I knew it. I knew that's who you're gonna pick.
Well,
As soon as I saw
I
his
keep
name.
looking at I keep looking at the board. I'm like, there's so many people I can go with here, but he's the one that just keeps
Oh,
coming out to me because
I
I mean,
knew
like,
it. I knew it. I was gonna say it, and I'm like, that's who he's gonna pick. I know it.
well,
It's
I didn't
sitting.
even know, like,
It's sitting too close to your face. As soon as you saw, as soon as you would look down
no, because I keep
that
looking
list.
down and I'm like, man, no one really sticks out to me other than him. Like, I don't know. I could have went with another Hendrick car because it was either going to be that or Denny and uh, Byron. Because I mean, who else are you going to go with? I mean, I guess you could go with Harvick potentially, but other than Hamlin and Byron, that's the one I saw. I'm like, man, I think he can give us something good.
Speaking speaking of, all right. So since you went out of left field with Josh Berry, I talked to you about it before. I'm gonna go with the 3 car of Austin Dillon.
Okay, yeah.
I think if the race, if he can qualify top 15, make it through the first couple stages and makes it to that last stage in contention to win, um, I think he's pretty good at hanging on to the rear tires. I think we've seen it in the past, especially like the last 2 years at Martinsville. I believe he's finished second and had a shot at winning it because he's been able to hold on to the rear tires really well. Um, uh, so just kind of since you picked Josh Berry, I think I'll go out of left field too and pick Austin Dillon. I wish I could pick him a different crew chief, but I digress. I think Rodney Childress should go be Austin Dillon's crew chief next year.
See if he even stays in the sport. I don't know if you heard it, too, where Harvick and Rodney were at it this week. It was kind of entertaining. Not that I think that
Oh,
there's anything wrong with that, but it
I
was just
I
kind
did
of you
not.
never really
I was.
they had it on radioactive. You never hear them really go at it. So when I think Harvick said something like, "I'm just trying to hold on to this car," and he's like, "Yeah, well," or Rodney was like, "We're falling farther back," and he's like, "What do you?" Harvick's like, "What do you want me to do?" And he's like, "I don't think I can be more clear. I need you to go forward." And Harvick's just like, "Stop talking to me." I was like, "Damn, I like that."
That's kind of
Um,
funny.
One thing I want to point out this week, Ricky Stenhouse is in the Kraft mac and cheese car this week. So that's, I don't know if they released that scheme yet, but that's probably going to be a fire scheme.
Oh,
Um,
let me see. Let me see. I think they
yeah,
released all the.
let's see here real quick.
I think they released the schemes today.
I don't think so. Oh, for
Yeah, let me see.
the spotter guides. Well, you can
We can
find
get
it
a
there
I.
with that.
You can get news.
I can tell you at
Oh,
least
the
JTG has not
logos.
made that. Yeah,
You
well,
know the logos isn't going to be on the center of the hood.
no, never is.
So at least that that makes you feel better.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right. Well,
Why do they do that? You think that like they'd be like, hey, it looks like shit. Everybody else thinks it looks like shit. We're just not gonna do it. I think they do it more.
they do it because it pisses people
Mm-hmm.
off. All right. Well, before
Look,
we
hey, one I will say my favorite scheme this weekend is gonna be the 43 car. It's gorgeous.
that was a very good looking car.
It is
Yes.
beautiful.
That
It is
beautiful
beautiful.
white Air Force
Uh,
colors. Oh,
it is definitely my Chevrolet paint scheme and iRacing for sure.
all right. Well, let's before we call it a night here, one more thing we want to talk about because this is going to be the first week that we technically have a real track we can test this low downforce package on. Obviously, it was in place this week at Coda. I think it helped a little bit, but honestly, our short track package is the one thing that we really need to be focusing on because it needs a ton of love. Michael, what are your thoughts going into this weekend? What do you think we're going to see here?
Look, I think Dale Jr. kind of put it best. Richmond is Richmond. It's kind of like Phoenix is Phoenix. It's gonna get strung out. The leader, if it went green the whole race, the leader is going to absolutely just destroy the field because he's going to be the best race car. If we don't get any nonsense, it's either going to come down to like it did last year, to where a slower car takes a gamble on tires and there's no caution, pits twice, pits three times, whatever it is, or the best car is going to win the race. It's going to end on a long green flag run. Um, I don't think that the package is going to make that much of a difference. I don't think the tire will allow that. I'll be curious to see if the racetrack widens out like it did last year. I'm hopeful, um, but we'll kind of see. I don't know. I think the fundamental problem with the short tracks is we're going to these racetracks that have been this way for a long time, and we're thinking that it's going to be different. The Gen 6 race the same way. The Gen 6 raced relatively the same way here at Richmond. And then you just gave it a bigger tire. I think the biggest problem with the next gen car is how wide the race car tire is. Uh, and with so little horsepower, you have more tire per horsepower per square inch. So I think we'll see almost the same race as we did last year. People will hate it. I think it'll be a great race because I love Richmond. I love what it offers. It reminds me of a true, type of short track. The best drivers win there. Uh, you very rarely see a first time winner get that win at Richmond.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat. I don't know that this is going to make a whole bunch of change, but I'm eagerly optimistic to see what, if anything, is different in our second, or I guess our third time around here. So,
Yeah.
um, with that, that's all I got. Michael, I know we got some racing this weekend. What do we got on the schedule?
First up, we have the truck race. When is the truck race on Friday or Saturday?
Saturday. It's going to be, I believe, after the Xfinity race. I think the Xfinity race is planned for 10 o'clock Pacific, and the truck race is planned for 1 o'clock Pacific. So you can convert that into your time zone.
Gotcha. So we got the truck race and the Xfinity race on Saturday. Then we move over into Sunday, and we have the IndyCar race at Texas. We have F1 in Melbourne, Australia. We have MotoGP. They are in Algarve International Circuit in Portugal. I'm sure I completely butchered that. And then, of course, you have the Cup Series in Richmond. So if you like some racing, we got a bunch of it. A lot of the major series are back this weekend. No Supercross on Saturday. It's their 1 week off. But yeah, we got plenty of stuff to watch. That's for sure. Man, we're in such a weird spot right now where motorsports I think is on an uptick, but we're getting to like a stretch of where the racing it just isn't that compelling. So I hope we don't lose the momentum that we've kind of made. Hopefully, the Texas Truck Race puts on a relatively decent show. I know it's getting better slowly, but I don't think it's getting better fast enough for fans. Same thing with the IndyCar race. It was better last year, but it's still single file. Red Bull's going to win. So our real hope is the Xfinity race doesn't get rained out and the Cup race.
Well, even if it rains on Saturday, they'll be throwing their wet weather tires on there. So, not looking forward to that. But um, that's all I got. Michael, I guess you can take us on home here.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my rants tonight. I'm sure we could have made this a 24-hour episode. We might have been able to go all the way until the appeal next week with all the stuff that's got going on. But no, as always, thank you guys so much for watching and so much for listening. Uh, I think it was nice to have our first couple races without stage breaks in 7 years, man. I can't believe it's been that long. But as always, have a wonderful evening. He's Justin. I'm Michael, and we'll catch you guys next week.